Welcome back, and now to the news in full. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi returned home late on Thursday after concluding the Russia-African summit held in the Black Sea resort of Sochi. President el-Sisi and his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin held a joint press conference where they reviewed the main topics tackled during the summit. President el-Sisi expressed his appreciation for the Russian president over hosting the summit and stressed the significance of the Russian-African cooperation over the upcoming period. The president also reiterated that Egypt always exerts utmost effort for achieving Africa's development and its security and stability during the country's current presidency of the African Union. For his part, Putin said that Russia is looking forward to enhancing ties with the African countries, especially in the fields of trade, economy, energy and investment.
Presidential spokesperson Ambassador Bassam Radi said President el-Sisi and Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed agreed to the immediate resumption of the work by a technical committee on the operating terms of the Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. Egypt fears the dam could restrict already scarce supplies of water from the Nile, on which it almost entirely depending. Ethiopia says the dam is crucial to its economic development. We have more details. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi met Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed on the latest developments of the so-called Renaissance Dam file. Ahmed asserted that his recent remarks before the Ethiopian parliament have been trimmed out of context and asserted his appreciation and respect for Egypt's political leadership and people. The Ethiopian premier elaborated that his remarks included his country's commitment to building the dam without causing any harm to the water interests of the stream countries. He went on to affirm that Egyptian stability and that of Ethiopia is a value added to the Black Continent, and to that end, his country would always abide by negotiations until a final agreement is hammered out on the dam. President el-Sisi meanwhile reiterated Egypt's openness and understanding of the Ethiopian development pursuits, but in the meantime the country is committed to its historic right in the Nile River waters. Thus, he elaborated that these development efforts should not cause any harm to such a right, adding that being extended to Egypt from Ethiopia the Nile River should lay the basis of fraternity and cooperation between the two countries. During the meeting, the two sides agreed that the Independent Technical Research Committee immediately resumes its work in order to develop a final vision regarding the filing and operating system of the dam.
The 18th summit of the non-aligned movement member states kicked off Friday in Baku, Azerbaijan, with the participation of Minister of Foreign Affairs Sameh Shoukry. Heading Egypt's delegation at the summit, Shoukry will deliver a speech on behalf of President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi on a set of international and regional issues of concern to Egypt as well as the movement members. The two-day summit is being held under the title Sticking to the Bandung Principles in response to the contemporary world challenges, where the gathering will be discussing means of enhancing cooperation in order to tackle global challenges and threats, on top of which is terrorism. The foreign minister will spell out Egypt's vision on fighting terrorism and extremism and its unprecedented success in this matter. On the sidelines of the summit, Egypt's top diplomat met his counterparts from Jordan and Iraq, Ayman al-Safadi and Mohammed al-Hakim, on means of boosting bilateral ties on the political and economic fronts.
We are still with our local news, and the House of Representatives on Friday condemned in the strongest terms a resolution issued by the European Parliament on Egypt's human rights record. The Parliament expressed its absolute rejection of that resolution being issued by a party not concerned with reporting on Egypt's internal affairs. The legislature deemed such a resolution a part of continued systematic resolutions which could not be taken seriously by the country's political leadership or by its people. The Parliament regretted that the EU authority was influenced by non-government organizations and terrorist groups while deciding on Egypt's human rights. It added that the country's procedural development of the human rights drive has always emanated from a free political and national will, which strongly believes that human rights is part and parcel of the country's comprehensive development process.
The General Commander of the Armed Forces, Minister of Defense and Military Production, General Mohammad Zaki, arrived home, wrapping up a visit that took him to China. The minister headed a senior military delegation for a few-day visit to Beijing, where he met Chinese counterpart and reviewed with him means of enhancing military cooperation with the Asian country in the fields of armament and military personnel, training, as well as exchanging expertise in other relevant areas. Zaki hailed his appreciation and pride of the strong ties and partnership binding Egypt and China and asserted that the two countries shared a common vision on supporting stability efforts in the Middle East.
Welcome back. During a recent visit to Russia, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi co-chaired the Russia-Africa Summit, the first of its kind, which aims at enhancing cooperation between the two sides. Following the summit, President al-Sisi and his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin, witnessed the signing of a number of memos of understanding and agreements between Russia and the African Union. The first memo was signed by Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and Chief of the African Union Moussa Faki, which lays the basis of cooperation and mutual ties in various domains. The second aims at boosting joint cooperation between the African Union and the Euro-Asian Union over the upcoming period. On Friday, the Ministry of Planning and Administrative Reform said Egypt includes multiple investment zones, among which the Suez Canal Economic Zone, where the Russian Industrial Zone is due to be built. The ministry said the Russian zone would benefit from the previously signed agreements between Egypt and the African Union and the COMESA, which enables Moscow to export its products to these countries.
Italy's Eni company announced that it has succeeded in cooperation with the company of the Egyptian General Petroleum Authority in discovering a new oil field at Abu Rdis, Sodri area of the Suez Gulf. The company said that operation at the new field will start within a few days with an initial production rate of 5,000 barrels per day. The company added that the amount of expected total reserves from the discovery amounts to 200 million barrels.
Egypt's stock market indices retreated during last week's dealings, losing around 4.3 billion Egyptian pounds. Market capital for listed company shares reached 713.6 billion Egyptian pounds compared to 717.9 billion Egyptian pounds the previous week. The bourse weekly report showed that the stock exchange indices fluctuate. The main EGX 30 index went up by 0.01% to reach 14,207 points, while EGX 70 index for the small and medium shares went down by 0.72% to reach 531 points, and the more expanded EGX 100 was down 0.6% to reach 1,407 points. The overall transactions and dealings within the session reached 7.7 billion pounds. Welcome back. The details. Cairo White Castle of Zamalek qualified for the group stage of the Africa Champions League after a hard-fought battle against Senegal's Génération Foot, which ended 1-0 on Thursday in a match that was held at El Salam Stadium. Génération's Gabriel Diop scored in his own net, thus giving Zamalek the chance to qualify in the first leg match. Génération Foot beat Zamalek 2-1.